Hi, everybody. My name is Sahar Moore, and we are group number 7. We are energy waste. I will be talking about some fun facts, and then we have Dakota, Veronica, Maria, and Mario, who's part of the group as well. So for the agenda today, like I said earlier, I'll be discussing about some fun facts about energy waste, and then we'll move on to Dakota, who will be speaking about the history and causes of energy waste. Later on, Mario will be discussing about the impact of energy waste and how it affects the environment. A continue of our agenda, Veronica will be discussing about the solutions to energy waste. And lastly, Maria will be discussing about ways to minimize problems on our own time. So some fun facts. Today in the United States, we are one of the world's leaders in energy solution, which leads to supplies, productions, and consumptions. Today, America has one of the most diverse energy markets in the United States and is one of the leaders to gain $6 trillion worth of global energy. But however, the United States today, despite that the fact that Americans use electricity every single day, we could be sometimes aware of how much we use. For example, how much we use could lead on to very high costs on bills. I will be discussing about 3 very important main facts about energy. There are 50, but I'll be discussing about 3. One of the facts about energy waste is that the United States have invested in $51.8 billion worth of cleaning energy since 2014. Our country has invested more than $386 billion since 2007. Energy productive in the United States economy has increased by 11% from the year of 2007 to 2014. And lastly, the energy market in the United States is one of the third largest industry in the country. Our world revolves around with energy even when we don't realize it. Anyways, Dakota will be discussing about history of energy use.
So, how did energy make its way into the US? So, this is the evolution of energy. So, energy first made its way into the US through wood, which isn't really labeled on the little chart we have right there because it wasn't really too big or important. It basically was just used to fuel homes and businesses to stay warm, and it was easily portable and consumed on demand. Sorry. Yet the use for wood for energy slowly declined as coal made its way into the US in the 1800s. Commercial coal mines were slowly inching their way into the country. The reason being was coal provided more heat per pound than wood and occupied a smaller volume and was a much more portable fuel. Coal consumption became very popular, and in the late 1800s, the amount of energy produced from coal exceeded the amount produced from wood. The use for coal to power machinery, aka industrialization, supported a strong demand for coal in the 1800s. Then, following coal, comes the use of oil and natural gas in the early 1900s. With advances in drilling technology, it made oil and natural gas abundant and available at a cost that could compete with coal. They were cleaner fuels than coal and easier to transport, store, and handle in many applications. By the mid 1900s, oil and gas were widely used in space heating, electric power generation, and as transportation fuels, which is like gas. We need it for cars, trains, planes, all of that. Next, we have nuclear power. The commercial production of nuclear power began in the 1950s and began to increase rapidly in the 1970s. Yet events like the 3 Mile Island accident in 1979 in Pennsylvania and Chernobyl, which happened in Russia, generated significant social pressures and safety concerns that had to do with nuclear power. Lastly, we have renewable energy, which currently accounts for 11% of the United States energy consumption from a study back in 2019. So it could be more now in 2021. Most of that comes from biomass and hydroelectric sources. Since 1995, the amount of energy produced by renewable sources has actually increased by 15.9%. So it's definitely on the rise. So here are some key numbers. 32% of energy in the US is natural gas, which accounts for the second biggest energy used in the US. 11% accounts for renewable energy, yet renewable energy has a really bright future and is going to keep getting better and better. This is like a little figure, I guess you could say, showing all of the different energy and how much the US is using it in 2019. So it could be more, could be less right now. Yeah, out of all the energy used in the US, 58% of it is actually completely wasted and unusable. So now let's move on to the causes of how energy is actually wasted. For starters, a major culprit across all industries is actually heat waste, the byproduct of inefficient technology. Here's a little small example to describe what heat waste is. So if you think of like a traditional light bulb, if you leave it on for hours on end, you notice that the area around the light bulb is actually really, really hot, which shows that the bulb is not only producing light, but it's also producing heat as well. Since the sole purpose of a light bulb is made to just produce light, all the energy that goes into producing the heat is completely wasted. Although this is a very small scaled example, the same concept can be applied to insufficient machinery in a manufacturing plant. Next, it's estimated that 71% of energy generated for transportation is actually wasted. And what's interesting that I found is cars actually get more useful energy than larger ways of transportation like trains, ships, and long haul trucks. Another cause of energy waste is thermal power plants, which kind of goes hand in hand with the heat waste as well, and insufficient machinery. So now next we have the causes of energy waste commercially. First, old inefficient equipment like HVAC systems, water heaters, or even the refrigerators that haven't been replaced for a long time are using and wasting much more energy than newer machines or systems, water heaters, stuff like that. Although it is expensive to get like a new refrigerator every 10 years, is actually beneficial for the environment and to not waste so much energy and not spend so much money on that. Second is neglected lighting practices, like leaving lights on for hours when you leave the room, or if you think of retail stores or businesses that just keep their lights on all night to avoid like any sort of robbery or something like that happening, that's also a waste of energy. Third is leaving electronics running, leaving stuff plugged in. If you're not using it and you're leaving it plugged in, you're wasting energy. And last is HVAC mishaps, which is like having your AC or your heater running and having the door open or leaving a window open to get fresh air. You're basically just wasting all the energy that's producing that air and all of that cool air or the warm air from heaters.
And the impact energy waste has on the environment. Since the Industrial Revolution, humans have been using more and more energy. Using more energy causes to having more energy waste. And on the next slide, I could show you that their energy sources, it can be produced from natural gas. It could also be produced from nuclear energy, renewable energy, and coal. All forms of energy have their consequences, their harmful effects on human health, wildlife, and the earth in its entirety. On the next slide, I can show you that renewable energy, like solar panels, leads to less land and just harming wildlife. Like solar panels take up hundreds of acres in the desert, it can replace and harm the wildlife in the desert. Nuclear energy creates waste that may pollute into the environment, that may lead into a nuclear disaster, like in Chernobyl or in Pennsylvania. And burning fossil fuels like natural gas and oil and coal may continue to pollute the atmosphere and may set a high speed into global warming. Eventually, these will have irreversible effects on the earth, and they're going to be for the worst. Wasting the energy will lead to harming human health and will also be loss of wildlife. These effects are irreversible and will lead to natural disasters and climate change.
So now we're gonna do ways to minimize energy waste at home. Number one, we're gonna shut down our computer. Computers are some of the biggest energy users in office buildings or at home. If we turn off our monitors off at night and ditch the screensaver, we can save very amount of energy. Today's computers can be turned off and on over 40,000 times. Opting the shutdown over using a screensaver does not affect the computer's lifespan. So power down. 2, choose the bright light. LED bulbs are the most energy efficient lighting options. It uses about 75% less electricity than incandescent bulbs. They also have no mercury and last about 20 times longer than the traditional incandescent bulbs. 3, eliminate vampire power, unplug idle electronics. Devices like televisions, microwaves, scanners, and printers use standby power, even when off. Some chargers continue to pull small amounts of energy, even when plugged. In the USA, the total of electricity consumed by idle electronics equals the annual output of 12 power plants. Number 4, use power strip to reduce your plug load. To avoid paying for these vampire powers, use power strip to turn all devices off at once. You can easily buy Amazon or Walmart, very cheap. Flipping the switch off on your power strip has the same effect as unplugging each socket from the wall, preventing phantom energy loss. 5, install a programmable or smart thermostats. A programmable thermostat can be set to automatic turn off or reduce heating and cooling during the times when you are asleep or awake. When install a programmable thermostat, you eliminate wasteful energy used from heating and cooling without upgrading your HVAC system. And last but not least, number 6, turn off the lights. Just one switch and you're done.
As you can see here, you'll see how much the average electricity cost in a normal household is per year, but 35% of that actual cost is wasted. So by unplugging certain things, by turning off lights, you actually save some money.
Today we have went over, some facts about energy waste, the history of energy waste, how it's being caused, and then we discussed about the impact of energy waste and how it could affect the environment, some solutions to energy waste that you could do at home, and ways to minimize problems as well as being home. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Bye now.
Thank you.
Thank you.